And let's do 3 sips together. And moving is one. So one person, one people, one humanity drinking the tea. Okay. Wait just a moment. Kate to get with us. There she is. Okay. It's a privilege indeed to have this time together. We're launching into a time of connection, as our good friend, Elder Larian Maturliuk would say, remembering what it is to be a connected human being and connecting into our practices in ways that are more life-giving to the practice and hence to the world, and more life-giving to us and hence to the world. It goes both directions. What I'd like to do is get started with just a bit of reflection. If you could get your chat fingers ready, I have a question for you that I'd like you to write in the chat, all right? When people ask you why you sit Zazen, what do you tell them? When people ask you why you do this training, what do you tell them? What do you tell them? So I invite you to join with me in just taking a look at the chat and at what's coming up in there. And what I love this. I love these answers. Keep going, keep going. You can be inspired by what's there, but you may have your own answers. Yeah. I could tell this is a seasoned crowd, you know, because yeah, like you've blown past all of the, you know, standard stress reduction answers, although you know, that's still a legitimate reason. But I just want to comment on some of these answers, not good or bad, but I just wanted to make a point around how this training plays in the world. So when if we were to tell a family member or a friend, I want to remember who I am, you know, they kind of look at us with their heads sideways, like, I can tell you who you are, right? You know, there's a conventional answer to that makes that kind of answer completely grounded in our community and completely unintelligible in the conventional world. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. And then the things around centering, absolutely, how we can feel more grounded and solid in who we are. And I think people would kind of understand that. Oh yeah, centering. That's one of the things that we might talk about as the business case for Zazen. Oh, you'll be more grounded, you'll be more centered, right? Those are things I have found myself saying when I've tried to talk about the benefits of Zen or Zen leadership in the world, you know, the case we make that you'll be more grounded, you'll be more centered. I like the answer. I just like it. Isn't that wonderful? I like it. You know, I was asked yesterday by a dear family member, what do you do for fun? And I'm thinking, everything I do is fun. What do you mean? But it's so hard to understand, right? It's so hard to understand. You see clearly past my BS, so important of how it starts clearing through layers of illusion and delusion that are not only ours personally, but ours in our culture. And we've inherited them, we've grown up through them, we've added to them ourselves, you know, all of that's true, right? All of that pertains. But again, it's hard for others maybe to understand that. I think there is a growing awareness, especially in the trauma-informed community and stuff, a growing awareness of how meditative practice is essential for being able to see beneath the layers or see through the layers of what's going on for us, to be able to not only be our emotions, but see our emotions, to understand the rising and falling of things, rather than getting so sucked in that emotion just got all of us, right? You know, we got completely triggered, you know. So that's also true too. Healing, a great point in our practice. And healing, if you think by its nature, is to mend separation. So it's very much related into that sense of knowing who we are, because the conventional sense of self is separate. It's this self in the skin, the self in its little box on the screen, and yourself in your little box on your screen, right? It's that sense of each in our own compartments. And of course, that's an aspect, an outcropping of our nature, and yet so totally not the whole picture. To know who I really am, again, we talked about how yes, of course, Zen is going to get at mending that false sense of separation, right? So it's going to heal that, and that's something that, again, the conventional world would struggle to understand. Connection, the title of our training period, is really used in many different ways, in many different contexts, right? And I think people mean different things by connection. Do we mean connected like train cars are connected, or like, Lego blocks, like children's toys are connected? Well, that's one meaning of it, but that's not the whole meaning. Do we mean connected like we interpenetrate without obstruction? A lot of people wouldn't even understand what that means, but that is the sense of connection that Tanoi Roshi used to teach so vividly. And as a physicist, I completely got it, because I could see that's what energy does. That's what energy does. And in its interactions, new forms can be created. I mean, that's what resonance and resonance is really about. Trying to be less of an asshole, that is so valuable, right? And it's related to working through our triggers, related to knowing what grabs us. When we can be the kind of person who is a trigger-free zone, we can stand in a lot of difficult places without ourselves becoming difficult. You know what I mean? And ultimately the Bodhisattva vow, the Bodhisattva is the one who stands in hell to get everyone else out. So how can we, but if you go to hell with your own triggers, you feel like shit. If you go to hell trigger free, much easier, right, to be in difficult situations. So thank you so much for your answers, and what I use it by way of opening to say in connection that whatever reasons we train, one of the things that we're invited to look at, and you saw it in the subtitle of the training, was to move beyond transaction to just a reciprocal informing, it's not a this for that. What I mean by that is sometimes, again, in trying to explain the value of our training in the conventional world, we're making kind of a business case for it. Well, if you sit, you're going to be more calm, you're going to be able to witness your triggers, you're going to be more grounded and centered, you're going to get a deeper sense of who you are. And that's all well and good. And we can sometimes take to our training in a kind of contractual basis, like I'm going to put in the hours because I want these outcomes. You understand what I mean? That I wanted this for that. And then our ego keeps evaluating our training. Am I getting what I wanted out of this? Am I more grounded and centered? No, I just blew up at that guy. So maybe I don't have all my triggers clear or whatever, or I'm not making any progress. I feel like a failure, blah, 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 right? And so we can get discouraged. Well, here's a hint. The ego is the lousiest judge of your progress in Zen training possible. So don't look to the ego to evaluate whether you're making progress in 49-day training or in your training overall. That's why we have community. That's why we have teachers. That's why we have the practice itself. Something else will inform you, but don't look to the ego's sense of progress, because the ego itself is what's getting deconstructed or song through, seen through and song through. How about that? in the process, right? So, it's going to protest at certain points, and it's often right before a breakthrough that the ego starts protesting most loudly. I just want to let you know that, because sometimes that's the sign of something, you're at a cusp of something. but it often feels very difficult. No worries, you're in good company. I want to completely normalize. You're in good company. The other reason we don't want to make Zazen too transactional is that if it becomes a this for that, when we don't need that, we don't do this. Do you understand what I mean? I'll give an example of one of my good training friends at Chosen G some years ago. I was talking with him in a priest training. He was a priest, but he was kind of bemoaning the fact that he really didn't train much between priest trainings. You know, he'd come to the priest training, but he didn't sit or do much in between. I said, why not? Why not? And he said, basically, I'm a fair weather Zen guy. When the weather is fair, I don't do Zen. In other words, when he's not suffering or struggling, he didn't feel the need for the training because the training was to help him face suffering and struggle, right? So the sense of connection is, how can this become such an embedded part in our bones that reason falls away, rationales fall away. We're doing this because it's what we do. It's what we do. And I invite you into, or it's what we are about that. You know, it's a kind of homecoming, maybe you could say, as many of your answers point to. And the reasons, you know, if I really look deeply into my own answers, what I'd write in the chat, I would have written a different answer every decade of my training. And you probably will too. You know, you probably will too. That's completely normal. But beyond the reason, how can we connect into the practice in a way where it's not a transaction? It's a sense of it's what we do for fun. It's just who we are. Or it's something that, boom, right? It gives life and gives life back. Something like that. So let me check with you. Does everyone have a practice, you know, in addition to doing Zazen, but a practice or a relationship in mind that you'd like to focus on in this 49-day period? Do you have something in mind? Give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. Yeah? You have something in mind? Okay, I've seen, yep, yeah. I've seen some, yeah, maybe. Okay, so this is now the point where you have to pick one if you had more than one in mind, or you have to pick one if you had 0 in mind. So just in this moment, jot down what that practice is. Just jot it down on the top of your paper, because I'd like to take us through a brief reflection and then tee up some breakout rooms to talk more deeply about this. So I'd like you to focus on one thing. I've been kind of rolling this around in my mind too, and I think I've landed on it. Okay. So just could you wave at me if you need another minute to write down the relationship or the thing you're going to be focusing on in addition to Zazen in this 49-day period. If you need another minute, I'd like to give it to you. If you've got it, I'm just checking with you. Looks good. And if you're watching this and recording, you too need to write something down. So get your one thing written down. It's the only way that this little meditation I'm going to take you through will be super useful to you. So that's why I'm asking you to be ready for it. So what I'd like you to do is find a posture. You remember Tanoi Roshi's wonderful guidance on how we do Zazen, how we listen to anything. Find that posture where your breath can drop, where you can use your posture and breathing to just feel yourself a part of the entire room that you're a part of. Your eyes drift 180 degrees. So all of us on the screen become soft companions to you, but we're not your focal point, right? So just let your eyes go to 180 degrees. Your posture and breathing is establishing you just in this space you are. Just spread out luxuriously to the space. Extend your energy to the 4 corners of the room you're a part of. Just feel you're a part of all of it. Yeah. And attend to the field of mind was the other guidance from Tanoi Roshi. I'm paraphrasing, but just let everything that is coming into your senses come in softly, come in. Another guest that you welcome into the house as the host, right? Another guest you welcome in, another one coming and going. Just rest with the senses fully registering, 180-degree vision, good breathing working for you. You can feel that breath dropping into hara. So the hara is nicely working for you. Feel it, center, guiding the breath, regulating the breath from underneath the lungs, eyes 180 degrees. And I want you to just feel the next sound that comes into your body, whatever it is. It could be my voice, it could be something else. And feel that sound dissolving back into the soundlessness out of which it arose. It's like a vibration arising and falling, a wave arising and falling back into the ocean, great Bodhi ocean. So just take a sound and send it back into that great silence, or stillness, or suchness, and rest and expand into that. Feel how your hearing dissolves into it. Rest in that which is not moving, which is completely still and holding all your moving parts. Wow. And feel out of this vast stillness how you can form yourself into whatever you need to be. Whatever you need to be to manifest out of this great bigness. And I'd like for a moment you to feel into a sense we sometimes call becoming something, going from there, becoming another, going from there. I'd like you to become Zazen, your own Zazen practice, become Zazen. Rest in that stillness and feel your Zazen practice coming through you. Become that Zazen and listen for what guidance does that Zazen, your Zazen, give you for this 49-day period. What is it asking you in this 49-day period? How is it informing you? What would it tell local you? Yourself and your skin. What would it tell you about this 49-day period? And when something arises, just jot it down on your piece of paper. Speaking as Zazen, what guidance does it offer for this 49-day period? Remember, it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to make ordinary sense. Just feel into what is Zazen guiding you in this 49 days. And when you've written it, just go back and rest again, relax again, let that vibration just distill back into the great ocean of being and rest in that great ocean. You can pick another sound, could be the computer fan, noise upstairs, a passing car, the sound of my voice, just send it back into the stillness before those vibrations arose. And rest in that bigness, that stillness. And bring to your mind that relationship, that person, that thing, that practice that you want to become differently in this 49-day period, that you want to experience, engage differently in this 49-day period. Becoming that practice, that person, that being, that thing. Shape your body into something that reflects that, or a gesture or something that reflects that. Become it in your beings, in your imagination. And resting is all pervasive stillness and manifesting that practice. Give voice to what guidance does that person or practice have for you in this 49 days? What would it, how would it advise? How would it guide you? What is it asking? Rest with that. And when words arise, or when what arises can turn into words, just jot them down. And as you capture whatever guidance the practice or person would have for you in this period, just rest with that. And when you feel ready, you can just sort of dissolve back into the vastness of the being. Take a nice, long, slow exhale here. And on your next inhale, come back into the screen and your box on the screen and our being together with one another. Just gently bring yourself back. No hurry. And what I would ask of you, Scobie Roshi, is if you could arrange us into some breakout rooms. Some breakout rooms of 2 or 3. And I'd like to take, say, 20 minutes. How about maybe, well, we say 25 minutes. 25 minutes to meet in your breakout room. And here is the assignment. Share with one another anything that came to you from becoming Zazen in that practice, becoming in that meditation, or becoming your practice or person in that meditation. Anything that you hope for or have doubts about or intentions for in your own practice in this next 49-day period. And not so much its outcomes as the way you engage it. Because again, our focus is not what I want to get out. It's more about what I want to put in. You understand what I'm saying? How do you want to put yourself into this time? Is that clear? And then we'll come back and we'll have about 10 minutes to just close together with any questions you have or any wisdom you'd like to share with the other groups about how you're planning to engage or put yourself into this 49-day time. Fair enough? That'll be our rhythm. Okay. So you'll be invited to a breakout room of 2 or 3 people. You have 25 minutes, share and share alike, and come on back and we'll put it together at about 10 before the hour. Let me hear from you. And you're welcome to come off connected. That's right. Come off mute to say a word or two, something you picked up for the breakout room that you think could be helpful to the other rooms. Something, maybe a piece of wisdom you shared or heard about how to pour into this practice. Anything that without violating confidences, you don't identify who said anything, but anything that you think could be helpful to people, or any aha you had, feel free to share. We'll just hold a little space for that. It's a great observation because that's exactly what connection is pushing us toward, is how to focus on our relationship with this practice, our relationship with this person, not so, and what guidance it might have given us about how that relationship could be stronger, deeper, more life-giving, something like that. Well, let me ask you to get your chat fingers ready. And I'd like you to write in the chat one way that you will engage this 49-day period. either now or differently, or even the same as when you came to this session, but something about how you're going to engage this period that will make it more alive, more vibrant, more energized. Extend into it. Yes, expand into it. You know, when I was writing down what my practice told me, it would say, stay slow and spacious. You got this. That's what my practice told me. Stay slow and spacious. Yeah. What else you got? Just write it in the chat. Embrace the not knowing. Yeah, when we know something, it's a pinpoint. When we don't know, it opens up the creative space. Yeah, the showing up and how we even recruit ourselves to show up. That's often a process as subtle as what we experience. I'm thinking of like Ellen McKinsey's somatics exercises. You know, we do these as part of our training and in IZL programs, but you know, where you might tense or activate a muscle and then release it, release it, release it, release it, release it. And you have to keep entering that whole system in order to access it, right? So how we show up could have that same quality. How do I bring in all of myself to this moment? What part is still left outside? Hint, if my mind is wandering, how do I recruit it into the practice? Right? Excellent, excellent. Serving without judgment. Yeah, that judgment again is always going to come from an ego point of view and is not helpful in an actual assessment. And plus, what's it judging? It's judging its perception of outcomes. And this again has much more to do with what we put in, not what we get out. So it's almost like an excuse to throw judgment out the window. You know, it's like, don't need you right now. You know, don't need you right now. Don't believe the reasons not to. Yes. Yeah. Again, our habits of thought will tend to come out of the ego structures of our past, because you know what else are they going to use? You know, well, the other thing they're going to use is what we're engaging in the moment and the field that we're a part of. You know, so our thoughts can arise from several sources, but when they do come out of patterns, they're going to reflect historical limitations. So great insight to realize you don't believe everything you think. Great. Out there is important to guide. It's really found is in here. And the in here out there is, of course, kind of an illusory boundary. Not kind of, it is an illusory boundary. Useful boundary, you know, useful boundary at times, you know, and in certain conditions. And what really is hitting me, and those of you who join me in the Awakening of Faith reading group know where I'm coming from in this, is how important, I mean, how pervasive, all pervasive the field is, the field of mind, capital M mind is, and the beauty of perceiving it in terms of the world I want to create. Not because everything we recognize starts to is in what we're pulling out of that field to make real through our own experience. And it starts with our perception, right? That's what starts turning the wheel. It's our perception. So, beautiful. Well, we are at the top of the hour, and I want to be respectful of your time and your Sundays, allowing emergence, continuous becoming. Katya, it's beautiful. That's beautiful. Allowing it. So allowing, if you feel allowing in your physical body, just for a moment, embody allowing, and you can feel something what soften, get bigger, right? More spacious. Embody allowing. Yes. And that relaxation helps the energy flow beautifully. So yes, we like that. If you have any questions about the logistics of this 49-day period, like what link, what are we doing next weekend, when can I join the sitting, you know, anything like that, Chosei Zen website will be one source of information, and Scoby Roshi in the next box over is another source of information, and she's willing to stay on after this call to fill in any questions you have about logistics. Just raise your hand if you have some logistical questions, so she'll know if she, okay, so she'll stay on and address those. Is there any other question you have that's not logistical that you'd like to ask while we're all together before we close? Thank you for making time for this today. Here we go, 49 days and we're into it. And may you find this just such a nourishing 49 days. Thank you for being in it together. Yeah.